Hello, highly sensitive and creative light beam. How are you feeling today? I am feeling super tired. I slept like 4 to 5 hours at best, and I still have to run for another 7 hours. Ooh, how can I do it? Can I? I don't know. But I'm also very excited because I'm in Coripo. I believe it's one of the oldest villages in Switzerland. This village reminds me of another village in China that was right next to the place where I rented my room, my first room in China that I rented. And it was right next to this old abandoned village where I believe there were like a couple of families still living there, not giving up on their homes. This place has kind of the same vibe, especially with the fact that there are only 10 residents here who reside in Coripo throughout the whole year. It felt like a fun idea if I can film this video here, because this place kind of resembles that village from China. But anyways, can you just even imagine living your dreams and then feeling like you're absolutely useless? Because I can. That was me. I lived my dreams and it sucked. So let's go back a little bit in time. Just a little bit. When I was 6 months old, a regular day, my parents entered the room where I was in my cradle, and we had a TV in that room, and it was playing something at all times, I believe. So there was a commercial playing on the TV at the moment as they entered the room, and they noticed that I am singing along with that advertisement. Like, I hit all the pitches at 6 months old. Sounds fantastic, but hey, it's their story, not mine. I don't even remember that. But then this story repeated when I was 9 months old, and this time it was my grandma who also entered the room. I'm in a cradle, advertisement playing, I'm hitting all the pitches, I'm singing along. So this is how my family collectively decided that, hey, we have a singer on our hands. And since then, I was practically raised as a singer. I mean, obviously I had a talent, but my family invested a lot of their energy and efforts into facilitating this talent and making it basically a skill. So as I was growing up, I was participating in different ensembles, singing and dancing. I was performing for a New Year's special on a local kids TV show. I also performed on what's considered to be one of the most important stages in the country, and I also traveled a lot throughout Ukraine, a little bit abroad. And also, as I was growing up doing all of these fun stuff, I was also dreaming about being big popular singer. I was even writing my own songs, pretending that somewhere in the far future I win a Grammy and I have it all. I have money, I have power, I have glory. Well, not exactly that, but I really wanted to work as a singer. I wanted to be a singer and earn my living with that. Another reason for why I wanted to be like a Grammy-winning singer is that I really wanted attention. I really craved attention and love and admiration. And that was my childhood. Then I went to college. This was actually the time when I actually started learning how to sing, because before that I didn't have a teacher. I had natural talent. It was facilitated, but really I never had like one-on-one coach. And this was the first time that I actually got my teacher for singing, but he sucked. I mean, not to say that he didn't help me whatsoever, because I really did take some stuff from him. But after a year and a half, he kinda started repeating himself and we kinda drifted apart. So the last 2.5 years I was training myself in terms of how to sing properly, which is weird, I know. But I believe it worked because, fun fact, when someone from my college would hear me rehearsing, they would ask me if I was the student of that and that person, which was not my teacher. And every time I would say, no, this is this guy who's my teacher, they would go like, how the hell are you singing so well with him? No one is singing with him. But hey, genius here, okay? Just so you know who you're dealing with. So this was it. I finished the college, and then I worked for a year in a non-music related job. After a year I felt burned out. I left the company and started my YouTube channel. This one that you're watching, but 10 years ago. Spoiler alert, I dropped it after a year. At the same time, I was working on obtaining my Polish card. My plan back then was to obtain the Polish card and move to Poland just before I went on an interview with a consul. My friend came from China. She spent there a few months at that point, I believe, and she came back to Ukraine for a short break, and as we were spending time, she just randomly said, "You should come and join me in China." This really sounded very casual, but her points in support of this invitation was really the fact that you could find an agent, find a contract, go to China and perform there as a singer. Oh my god, that kind of broke my circuit. After a year, kind of a limbo year, trying to figure out in my brain how the hell I'm supposed to settle down in Poland, having zero savings and zero prospects about what I'm gonna do there. The idea that I can go to China, which is like so far away, which felt so exciting, and also work there as a singer, it kind of made me go like, boop, that's a very nice idea. She dropped it so casually, and I just matched her energy and just casually said, yes, I'm doing that. And my plan was initially to go to China for a year, save some money, then go back to Ukraine, and then from there I could go and live in Poland for a while until I figure out what it is that I can be doing there. But at least I could have some savings to feel comfortable as I'm figuring these things out. And so the journey began. I started collecting songs, collecting my looks, looking for an agent, finding a contract, then making my documents, and then half a year after, I actually moved to China. And my first place was a small room that I shared with that friend next to a very old village that looks something like that. Maybe a bit more wrecked and a bit more empty than this one, but it felt romantic, you know. There was something about it. So my first year in China was really hard. I still had jobs, but I had them very occasionally, and I actually started off as a singer for nightclubs. We were working on creating a project that consisted of me as a singer and 2 dancers, and we really struggled finding jobs with this project. The project was fine, it's just something went wrong with the organization part, and for that reason I was just having gigs here and there and nothing in particular. It was still enough for me to cover my expenses for a living, and of course partying. There was a lot of partying and lots of hanging out with wrong people in wrong places. So by the end of the first year in China, I still didn't have any savings, but I got a contract. I got a nice contract for 4 months in a nightclub. Problem was is that they wanted only me. So I had to break the deal with the project that I was cooperating with and start my contract. And for the next 4 months, I worked like, I don't know what to compare. It was crazy. I didn't have days off. Absolutely none. In general, I spent 4 months in some sort of solitude, a lot of time being drunk, really. I was still surrounded by people, but I didn't speak Chinese. I still don't. Very, very little. And communication was a big issue for me, and the only thing that was left is to drink in a nightclub. And while I was not working, the only connection, real human connection that I had was via phone with my family and friends, but only using the phone. That was really tough. And at some point, I just got really sick of this routine. I decided to travel for a day to Guangzhou. And I remember that day, it was so magical. I went on a walk. I went to mall. I got myself some nice stuff. I felt felt so free, and I really fell in love with the Canton Tower. I remember I was going back from Guangzhou. It was tearing my heart apart. I didn't want to go back to that hell. I wanted to stop working in nightclubs. I couldn't stand this type of a lifestyle. I just couldn't stand anymore. I really needed to refresh my career path. I've seen some singers, they were working for events and only with live bands, and I felt like this is exactly what I was dreaming for myself. And I gave myself a promise to move to Guangzhou, and I really wanted to have the view to Canton Tower from the place where I live. So I went back home after a year and a half, and it wasn't to go to Poland, and came back to China and started working real hard to save money and to be able to move to Guangzhou. And really I enjoyed that period of time, even though I was still drinking a lot and it was really messing up with me, but I still didn't see how that was a problem. So I just continued, and I believe after 2 months of hard work, I was able to move to Guangzhou. Very soon I met my dear friend Emilio, who had a band there, and he was in a search for a good singer, and there I was. I came to him, he auditioned me, we loved each other from the first sight. Like, we're like, dude, this is awesome, we should start as soon as we can. And we started, and it was amazing, and I loved it so much. And looking back into my dreams that I craved from my childhood, of course I didn't have Grammy, I didn't perform with my music, but I was working as a singer, I was earning really decent money, I was able to support my living abroad. And then attention, I really had a lot of attention. First of all, from Chinese. I remember I was really comparing this experience of being a European person in China to being a celebrity. You get so much attention. But I also got a lot of attention from men, which was nice, but it also led into so many chaotic relationships that really did nothing but harmed me. I really craved love, but I didn't know how to give it to myself, so I ended up in like line of just trashy, absolutely trashy relationships. Even though the life looked amazing, I didn't feel like it. I was constantly stressed, agitated, so angry, and I still had huge drinking problems. I didn't even have to go to a party to drink. I could just get myself a drink from the first convenience store and just get drunk at home all by myself. So where it clicked probably was around New Year. I had a gig where I performed solo, and during that gig I got conned by the client for half of the negotiated price, and of course I got drunk. I also got drugged. We are upset and angry because we got conned. We're drinking during that, and let's get some drugs. This whole night just ended up with me waking up in the morning. Thank God I woke up in my own room, but I was absolutely dead. Didn't remember half of the night. I took a taxi and went for a few days out of the city. A nice place, very quiet, in the midst of mountains. And I believe that exactly that moment when I decided to go to the mountains after that monstrosity of the night is when I began my journey of changing and actual recalibration of my life and my moral compass. So even after I came back from the mountains, I was still in that process of slowly rediscovering myself. And to be clear, I still felt unfulfilled. There was still that feeling present within me. So I also still had issues with alcohol, but I started to become a little bit more aware of myself, aware of who I am. And I also started to write my songs again, which I didn't do in quite a while. I think during the previous couple of years in China, I wrote maybe like 2 songs, and they weren't even finished. And now I was back on it again, like finishing my stuff and like coming up with new melodies and new ideas. It was inspiring. I felt like something is shifting within me. And so half a year after, somewhere at the end of spring, I went back home to visit my family and spend some time with them and to refresh my documents so that I can go back to China. And I believe that I went into the absolute zero with my round-trip tickets and the documents. After I came back to China, within a couple of weeks I started to feel more comfortable financially, and then I lose my passport. So I lose my passport. I drag myself into debt. I go back home, I depend on my grandma, and I fall into depression. And I believe I was already depressed prior to that, but now that I actually lost everything and went into minus, this is when depression was like, cuckoo. And now I am basically faced with all of my demons. And so I faced suicidal thoughts, and at that point I just had two choices. Either I follow them or I give myself another fucking chance to pull myself out of it. I didn't know how. And so I told myself that I gotta give myself this chance and get myself out of this feeling, and maybe somewhere, sometime, I will share this story, like today. And maybe for someone it will resonate and it will help someone. And so after I made this decision, it took me literally a couple of weeks to get into even more debt, but I was able to get my tickets, get my documents done again, and I went back to China. Within another couple of weekends I was able to pay all of my debts back and continue from scratch. And that year I decided that I don't want to be working for the new year. I just want to go to the mountains and spend the night there. And the day after, the owner of this place, Sama, invited me to join them in the dancing festival. It was so random, and I said yes. I didn't have any plans. I said yes, I'm coming. And it was so magical. It was the place where, for the first time in my life, while I was dancing, actually it was my first time to try ecstatic dance. I didn't even know it was ecstatic dance. And during that ecstatic dance I started crying, and it was the first time where I felt like it's okay for me to feel my feelings, and it's okay for me to feel my feelings in the presence of others. I remember there was one woman who came and hugged me, just comforted me as I was crying, but it just felt so magical to experience this freedom of just being real me. And real me was really, really, really sad at that moment. But really what this workshop did to me is that it gave me an idea. I decided that I wanted to move to that spiritual community. I wanted to live in the mountains. I wanted to be there, and so that I could have more time and space to be present with my real emotions and with my real feelings. And so within a couple of months I moved out of my apartment complex with the view to the Canton Tower, and I started volunteering in a spiritual community. But I also had so much time on my hands to just cry, yell, scream. So much shadow work has been done there. But it's exactly through this experience of living there and giving myself this time and space to just like let it all out and reflect on all of that. It's exactly when I realized that actually being a singer was never my dream. It was never my dream to become a famous singer with a Grammy. Actually performing in front of the people gives me anxiety. But I fight it because I'm a performer. I shouldn't be feeling this way. But I do, because this is how I do. This is how I feel. I cannot go against it. But now I could see exactly how self-conscious I was every time I performed and how stressful that was. And it was just the simple fact that it was not ever my aspiration. It was actually the dream of my parents, who saw me singing in a cradle when I was a little baby. And raised me into this idea, into this dream, which is beautiful, and I'm really grateful for it. Of course I am, because hey, it gave me so much experience, like being on a TV show, performing on the big stages, traveling around the country, but then living abroad and making my living with that, and having all of the magical experiences that were coming along with that. But I felt unfulfilled because I never dreamed of this lifestyle. I thought that I did, but it wasn't my conscious choice. Actually, what's funny is that I realized that I am more interested in psychology and self-development. And it's funny because for all my life up until that moment, I thought that I hate psychology because of the misrepresentation in media and cinematography, and my personal bad experience, couple of them. So it turned out that apparently I am all about absolutely different type of things. And since then, I started my new journey of rediscovering, like really, really deeply rediscovering myself and figuring out my life, which I still do. I will not hide that. I'm still figuring it out. I left China very soon after that half a year in the spiritual community. I never felt depressed, even while living in a dangerous environment while being married, which is a different story. But the point is, yes, even then, I still felt pretty solid. I feel happy and I do feel fulfilled, even though at the background I remember that there is a horrible thing that is happening back home. It doesn't affect the way I feel about myself and my life as an individual. And it's because I know the things that do belong to me and things that do not. And I think the moral that I'm trying to share here is that if you are feeling unfulfilled, even though your life may look like a dream and there is really nothing to be whining about, most likely you're not living your dream. It's probably someone else's. And speaking from my personal experience, the best thing that you can do in this situation is to create the space for yourself in which you can truly reflect upon your life and to see the things that do not serve you, and empty that space for the things that do. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope you're having a great day with whatever that you're doing, and I hope you really enjoyed this video. And if you did, please leave it a like. This will help this video to find more highly sensitive and creative light beams who feel unfulfilled in their lives and hopefully find their answers here. And that would be it from me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.